As I've been driving across the state, the last few weeks, you could really tell who was planting and where they were planting just because of the dust clouds that were rolling. They're just doing the classic, we're going to dust this wheat in hopes we will catch a rainstorm and get it up. And those that did, when we caught that rain a few weeks ago, they were able to get some wheat up and growing. And then this round of storms that hit us earlier this week is really going to give that a boost and really get it growing. This is what my dad used to always call $1 million rain, because we've got a perfect storm of extremely high feed prices. We've got the benefit of people being able to hold calves if they can put gain on them cheap to make some extra money from those calves, but just finding a way. And usually in high feed prices, we rely on wheat pasture. And this year, the prospects for that, until we got these last two series of rains over the last couple of weeks, was extremely limited.
So how much longer do you think, and what are the elements that need to happen before we can actually start getting cattle out on the pastures?
So I was looking at, if we have our normal weather pattern, continue with average temperatures through October and into November, there's some research that was conducted here at Oklahoma State years ago where they're looking at about 2 pounds of forage dry matter production per acre for every growing degree day, which would be degree days over 42 degrees. And that would give us 25 to 40 pounds of forage dry matter production per day. And in a month or a month and a half, that should allow us to turn out cattle at our normal stocking rate of about 2 acres per 500-pound steer by Thanksgiving or the week after Thanksgiving. If we haven't planted yet, we're going to have to wait for it to dry out. That's going to be maybe the first of the year before we'd be able to get any grazing on some of those pastures.
And even, if it's delayed, there's still options that producers can have in regards to different types of crops that they can go ahead and plant to graze cattle on, in the winter, if they weren't even able to get wheat into the ground.
So there's other options available in an emergency. We've looked at using oats that can grow really rapidly. They're respond to warmer weather and great forage crop, but they do freeze out. Something like rye or triticale grows at a lower critical temperature than wheat will, and is bred and selected for higher forage production in a lot of cases. So instead of 2 pounds per growing degree day, they may produce 2.5 or 3 pounds per growing degree day and get us that critical amount of forage mass that we need to turn cattle out in a quicker rate. We're 2 weeks away from the first ice storm we had last year, and that really set our crops back last year. So, the best we can hope for is normal weather patterns for the rest of October and into November.
So, August, September, pasture conditions were looking great. Obviously, the situation changed dramatically. How does that impact producers who are grazing cattle on those range land? How does that impact going into the winter?
So yeah, we went into August with really good pasture and range condition. Whenever we went for the full month of September without any rain, it all burned up and dried up. So, we've got quite a bit of hay from that really good early summer hay season we had. But we're going to have to probably start feeding a little bit earlier than what we normally would, especially to range cows and that kind of animal, because we don't have quite the dormant range or dormant Bermuda grass that we normally would rely on going into December.
Just other challenges the producers are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, thank God we had a good summer hay season, because we're probably going to use it this winter.
All right, Paul, we'll check back with you in a couple weeks just to see how this wheat pasture conditions are going, and hopefully everything stays good. All right, thanks, Paul. Paul Beck, Extension Beef Cattle Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.